What it do? Welcome to the Digital Pit Boss Show. So, how y'all doing tonight? It's a late night. You know, I like to get up, get it in on the late night. If you just joining this chat, what's happening with you? Yeah, go ahead if you can, and share this link, pass it around. If y'all need to get at me, you can hit me at 99 light years. That's LIGHTYEARS at gmail.com, right? So, I've been listening to all of these cats on YouTube. Oh, man, talking about this Black Power. And they really just don't understand what it is, how it was formulated. I mean, they have this small conception that they're learning from what they call their master teachers. Most of these master teachers, they like comedic based, right? Yeah, I'm down here in the basement, Raj, getting it in. Y'all see the Indian chief over my shoulder back there. And we getting it in. So I'm just going to break down a little something. This video is purely for some deeper understanding and breakdowns on what happens with this Black Power movement. So what I'm going to be talking about is Black Power and how the phrase was established. Because most people might think that, they just came up with this because they was feeling like, oh, we need to shift gears. But really, it was a cover up to some stuff. It's not a diss on anything. This is just the history. When I get to reading this information is coming from some high level scholarship that was at the time. So it ain't gonna just be my words and what I think alone. I mean, I have my own way of conceiving the information and comprehending this stuff, but this goes a little bit deeper. So yeah, like I said, if you're just joining me, pass this link around somewhere, and if y'all want to get in on the conversation a little later as I kind of break through some stuff, I'll put the link out there for you. You just let me know. Let me write something inside the link box and pass the link out. Pass the link. Okay, so hey, I got a couple of watches. I'm just getting started. It's late night, midnight hour. If you're on the West Coast, I guess it's about 9 for you. So like I say, we're going to get into some Black Power. This is going to be pretty interesting because first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break down to you guys the student non-violent coordination, right? So we're going to get into that first. So I'm going to have to share my screen because I'm just going to go to a Wikipedia and we're going to read along so I can fill you in with the beginning of the movement for this civil rights movement in a nonviolent way. And you got to understand the education and the direction that certain groups want to take the populace of Black people and what direction they want to take us and who is actually formulating these ideas. It's kind of like we about to see the Black Lives Matter movement of the 1960s, right? That's pretty much where we're going. And if you know anything about the Black Lives Matter movement, it started with a couple of chicks who were screaming Black Lives Matter. And then all of a sudden, a Jew by the name of George Soros, he peeped that. He felt like, hey, that's a good slogan. We can manipulate that, and donated ridiculous amounts of money to it and put some protection on it. So the Black Lives Matter movement was able to run up on Hillary Clinton while she was doing her little campaigning, and also run up on Bernie Sanders and take the microphone away from him. And you wonder, how can a group of people, a couple of students, go and take the mic from a president in it running for a candidate running for president? So in this way, you about to quickly learn that everything that's going on today, it kind of like is a repeat of what happened in the 60s. So let me share my screen with y'all real quick. And then we're going to get into this movement here, right? Yeah, let's do that. Boom. All right. So y'all should be able to see that. Let me make sure y'all can see that real quick. And I got a little link. Okay. So y'all should see that right about now. Boom. Right? So what do we have here? Let me blow this up so I can try to help y'all read this, right? And then, you know, if you're on your computer, you're welcome to Google this and follow along with what I'm saying. I'm just bringing y'all here just to give you a quick little background. This is probably a group, you know, you may heard of if you're in the really researching, but mainly you're not going to hear about people talking about the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, right? That's the the SNCC, right? So you have this particular committee was one of the most important organizations of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. It emerged from a student meeting organized by Ella Baker, held at Shaw University in April 1960. The SNCC grew into a large organization with many supporters in the North who helped raise funds to support the SNCC's work in the South, allowing full-time SNCC workers to have a $10 per week salary. Many unpaid volunteers also worked with the SNCC on projects in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, and Maryland. The SNCC played a major role in the sit-ins and the freedom rides, a leading role in the 1963 March on Washington, Mississippi's Freedom Summer, and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Over the next few years, the SNCC's major contribution was in the field work, organizing voters, registering drives all over the South, especially in Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, right? Okay, so now, understanding that, let me bring y'all back on my screen so I can look at you, right? Okay, so now I'm just gonna flip there. So now understanding that this is your Black Lives Matter movement of 1960, because what it is a bunch of college students working in conjunction in various states to put together a movement to get you registered to vote, you know, get you prepared for integration. They operated on the freedoms movement. They participated in the Martin Luther King marches. This was those guys, right? They eventually became what we're going to be called, a portion of them, what we're going to be called the Black Panthers, and many of the political parties of the time. It wasn't just the Black Panthers. I mean, there was many students, and some of them was revolutionaries, and some was just, you know, students who just, you know, had a little bit of spirit, but not the revolutionary spirit, right? So that's where I'm just giving you this little layout because I got to bring you into the understanding of how this worked in the 60s and what's being played out right now, and the ideology of the people who are doing this type of protesting. Now, if you understand, anybody fighting for civil rights would definitely come out of what you would call the NAACP, Talented 10th, the non-economic liberalism, that type of thing, right? So you had the Black Panthers, and what was the basic ideology of the Black Panthers? The Black Panthers' basic ideology is that they're a revolutionary group fighting for a socialist paradigm in contrast with a communist perspective, and they also think from what is called a materialism, dialectic materialism. That's the word, dialectic materialism, which is basically a Karl Marx and Engels mindset of thinking when applied to a revolutionary spirit, right? So now you have a bunch of college kids on the campus that we would become known to all those famous names that happened in the 60s, right? So I'm gonna read down a little further, right? So the founding of this particular group that I just mentioned, right, is founded in 1960, and it's inspired by the Greensboro or the Nashville sit-ins. So here you got these sit-ins, people, you know, they're not being treated right, right? This is that Martin Luther King crowd that's sitting in all of the places. They want integration, right? They're not fighting for They already separated, but they have a pretty not equal policy. See, back in the days, they had separate but an equal policy. Now it's separate and unequal. So now they're fighting for integration and equality. This is what they want, not knowing what they're gonna get. Now you and I living in 2016, we understand what they got. We know what this integration feel like, right? And I'm sure you don't feel like you're being treated equal, or that your bank account look equal, or that when you go to apply for a loan that you get treated and looked upon equal, right? You go get a job, you're not being interviewed equally. But this is what they're fighting for. They're fighting for what we're living in today, right? And you got all of these different people that love to tell you that they're a PhD. You know, a PhD, that's a research degree, right? Most of them is non-economic liberals when they go get these degrees. They don't have an economic degree. They don't have a scientific PhD. They don't have an engineering PhD. See, when you got a PhD in a STEM set program, you're a different kind of speaker when you come out and talk. You damn sure ain't talking about writing books. You talking about building factories. You talking about organizing on an economic level. You're not talking about marching down the goddamn street, screaming and hollering who we gonna vote for. Who cares who the president? Hey, Hillary Clinton, I hope you win. Hey, Donald Trump, I hope you win. It really won't matter, because the only thing that matters is your personal agenda when you wake up every day. If you got an agenda to where you want to integrate, then you better know how you're going to get yours in that situation. If you got an agenda where you want to separate, then you better know how you're going to get yours in that situation, right? So now, not to hold y'all up forever, and to get into a little bit of this perspective, I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to cancel my screen and give you my logo, because I might fall back and get comfortable and be looking all crazy, but I'm right here with you, right? So let's get into it, right? So it says, the old proverb, necessity is the mother of invention, was given a unique civil rights configuration when the slogan of Black Power was popularized during the summer of 1966. The necessity lay in the fact that the SNCC Corps, United Front, in its direct action protest phase had bogged down. So by 1966, this particular organization that we was reading about, they have been 6 years on the march, sit-ins and marching and hooping and hollering, right? And pretty much the momentum is coming to a halt. And they need a picker-upper. They need to figure out what they're going to do next, because the next is not very clear, right? So it says, like an army that had outdistanced its supply unit, it had finally stopped by the enemy's counterattack and the backlash. The slogan, Black Power, was conjured up, and the use of the manner of the rallying victory cry, in effect, its cover-up, a defeat, without having to explain either the basic reason for it or the flaws in the original strategy. It suggested the dimensions of the future victory in the attainment of goals, while at the same time dispelling fears of a more defeat in the pursuit of such goals. Yet each and every goal was already implicated in its direct action movement, even before the slogan was projected. Black Power then was raised with a social rally, forced so-called revolutionaries to put action aside and start thinking. The movement that had placed in its highest premiums on practical activism now turned over a new leaf and began to get theoretical about the real substance of the civil rights objectives. The old slogan about justice, liberation, freedom now, etc., were now shadow terms. If direct action protests had been defeated by certain structural barriers of society, The new slogan became a commitment to deal with the real substance of those barriers that block the attainment of civil rights. Thus, fears, oppositions, and startled cries of alarm were immediately raised. The new threat fell across the land like an ominous shadow, even though the exact concept of Black power had not yet clearly defined. As this writing, as a concept that remains as vague as the former abstraction justice of the liberation, although the Black power concept is more specific and provocative abstraction than freedom, it is open to just as many diverse and conflicting interpretations. While it tries to give more clarity of what forms of freedom will assume in America as the end product of a new program, the Black Power dialogue does not close the conceptual gap between shadow and substance, any more than its plots and course for the program's dynamic. Whatever Black Power is supposed to mean to its adherent and its foes, its implication cannot be clearly understood unless one examines the slogan's aim and origins. Who originated the slogan? Are the aims of revolutionary or reformist? It was originated by the leading members of the radical wing of the Black bourgeoisie. So now, what is the Black bourgeoisie, right? The Black bourgeoisie is coming back from the popularized statement of W.D. Du Bois at the turn of the century. He promoted the talented 10th. The talented 10th would then go into the Black colleges of liberal arts and gain PhDs, doctors, masterate degrees, and they wanted to control the narrative of the whole. They wanted 10% of the smartest we got to tell us what direction we gonna move. And they called themselves the bourgeoisies. They set themselves up in masonry organizations such as Kappa Alpha Kappa and Q Dogs and all of that stuff you get to learn when you go to college and join these fraternities, right? But that's in the turn of the century. Now here we are 60 years later from those formations, and we got this bourgeoisie class of people going to college with an extra brain on how to be this or that. And a group of those people decided that they're going to become revolutionary spirited in a socialist, Marxist, communist type of way. And because this movement for freedom, this movement for justice is coming to a halt, they need to pump this back up. And they then got a way better format that they call Black Power. We still screaming it today. But we don't really understand the context in which we screaming it to what they were screaming it for back then, right? I often talk about the formation of the fist, the black fist. When you see this black fist on flags and buttons and people's t-shirts and things, it looked like, hey, that's the sign for Black Power. But that fist was assimilated to the phrase Black Power at this moment in 1966. And because their ideology was based on a socialist, Marxist, communist perspective, and they held up that fist, this is what the fist has always represented, going back as far as the Russian Revolution. Just look that up, the Russian Revolution. Just look up all the various communist revolutions and understand that the fist was being thrown up. But when you look up the Marcus Garvey movement, you get no fist. When you look up the Booker T movement, you get no fist. When you look up the Martin Delany movement, you get no fist. Because the fist isn't associated to a Black nationalist perspective. Black Power is there, but its ideology is not recognized by the Black fist. The only, I could say, object that we recognized for Black Power at that time was the red, black, and green flag, which represented the ideologies nation on a global scale. So when you see the red, black, and green, it's a global nation. That's not a flag for a local nation, you know, held by borders. That flag is a global thing. And if you want to say it's a universal flag, right? So it's not that other ideologies can't adopt that flag, they can. It's just that if you are learning about this Black Power ideology and you don't learn it clearly, you get distracted or misled or disappointed, because as you coming into this consciousness of Black Power, and you might be a Black nationalist perspective, and you running around misled following a socialist communist ideology, which is nothing wrong with following that if that's the ideology that you want to operate under. If that it is, then just let it be known when you training people or sharing your ideas with these people that you coming from that perspective. Because until you understand the differences between Black nationalism and Black socialism, you're not following the same path. They don't come to the same moment. People don't understand that this movement was backed up by Jews like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was rolling with these people at that time. That's why you got my man Killer Mike, much love to Killer Mike, you know, the purple circle over there. But he don't quite understand that, because he was following Bernie Sanders and running for, you know, to get him in office. And so, you know, he got some action and some thread down that way, but he really didn't understand fully, because in his heart, he's more Black nationalist. But in his outward politics, he ran with the socialist program, right? So when you look back at the Black Panthers, you don't really see the red, black, and green flag associated with them, because there was a Black nationalist movement on the scene that was kind of riding low, because this integration movement is at an all-time high. You feel what I'm saying? Like today, you got the Black Lives Matter movement. They're the duplicate. They're fighting for socialism. They're not out there talking about Black Lives Matter for Black nationalism. They talking about Black Lives Matter for Black socialism, right? And I won't even put the communist effect on them, but it follows closely by. You know what I mean? So all you got to do is understand the speech when people talk, and understanding those key words, those flag words that give you the direction of what perspective that they come from. That's why you have to study dialectic materialism, because dialectic materialism will allow you to always understand when someone is speaking to you from a socialist communist perspective, as the thought process deals with materialism, not as in, you know, clothing and cars, but how the world around you affects the way that you think. And it's a pretty deep way to think, right? And not many people ever heard of that or understand what's happening. They just hear the rhetoric coming out from people who do understand it, and look at them to be very wise and deep in their insights, right? So let me go back to this book and get in a little more, because this next name that I'm about to yell out, you know, he got a statue on 125th Street, just a few blocks down from Sinetta, and it's called the Adam Clayton Powell, right? We're talking about Adam Clayton Powell because he fits right into this time period. So I go back. It says it's originated. This is this group. It originated by leading members of a radical wing of the Black bourgeoisie. Adam Clayton Powell, he first mentioned it at a Chicago rally in May of 1965 and elaborated upon it in his Howard University commencement speech of May 29th, 1966. It was picked up and popularized by leading members of the radical wing of the social right movement, Stokely Carmichael. From the lower middle class students from Carmichael was then joined by certain nationalist elements from the integrated minded core. So now you have people coming from that group, that core group. They have a nationalist mindset. They're joining up to Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael then listened to various people, came across Adam Clayton Powell speaking, came up with this Black Power, connected that with his movement, and we about to get into this game. 1966, the thunder about to land, and the Black Power movement is about to jump off, right? Now, hold on, let me pull up my little comment section just in case y'all over there getting it in. Right, let me pop this chat box out real quick. All right, so I can see, just in case y'all try to get at me while I'm talking sometimes. Y'all be liking a comment, and I don't be looking over here. But if you decide you have something to say, you can write it on in there. Like I said, if you just joining, you know, we can get this viewership up by being a social network coalition, and y'all pass this this link out. And for any of y'all who, you know, kind of really like listen to my show and like my little various directions I go, and you want to get you some money, I do design and various things, and we can collaborate to create our own t-shirts for this platform. Everybody will get it at the lowest cost possible of what we print for, and we'll all share in the profit. So holla at your boy. You can go to my Facebook page at DPB Studio. Leave me a message wherever. But anyway, we're going to get back to this Black Power, y'all, right? So now we got Stokely Carmichael coming into the game. He's merging in with this nationally minded core group that's this committee, right? And it's getting ready to jump off, right? So it says the radical wing of the civil rights movement in the North, thus the slogan of Black Power appeared to signal and consecrate shift from the SNCC core, radical protest, integrationism, not a national separatism, but to some intermediate position between separatism and radical integration. There we go. Since all of these diverse protest elements, separatists, nationalists, and direct actionists had made up the sum total of what was called the Black Revolution, formal logic would conclude that this tumultuous shift to Black Power denotes a turn in a more revolutionary posture than formerly held by the SNCC and the core. Then their direct action battering rams were at full strength, north and south, but a closer examination of every analyst by each Black Power exponent from the SNCC and core reveals that while the slogan cast a revolutionary sounding theme and a threat of more intense revolt across the land, the substance was, in fact, a methodological retreat to Black social reform. Oh, snap. So we're yelling Black Power, but in reality, it's not going that route. As we already see, right? We're in 2016. This book landed in 1967, talking about this era in 1966. So what direction was they going? Oh my God. Black revolutionary reform. These are reformists operating under the banner of Black Power. But in reality, they just reformists. You got to really take note on words like that, reformist, various things like that. Write that down. Go do a deeper study. Get you an unabridged dictionary, the big fat one that take you all the way back on word, so that when you're trying to learn on a deeper level, you got some real knowledge that you pulling up out of there. You know, just using Google to go onto these dictionary sites and get a lightweight definition don't give you the breakdown deep enough, right? So we're going to get into the deepness of how deep this Black Power go. You know, see, I've been studying this in a long time with this perspective, dropping this information in my fraternity of Pan-African group, which I didn't really let a lot of people in at the time. I was going hard only because I was trying not to deal with all of that madness of these fake Black Power groups. And I don't call them fake, like they don't really mean what they think they mean. I just mean that they have been misled, like various people out there with paradigms that they out speaking about, and their paradigm is way off the way they've been taught. And so they just running off the mouth with a paradigm that's not even real. And when it comes to this Black Power movement of today, you don't see many people who really understand, who could even break down what the Black Power fist means. And if you don't believe me, go in your Facebook the next time you see somebody with a red, black, and green flag on their page, or a fist, or anything associated to Black Power. Ask them to tell you, what does the Black Power fist mean? What does it stand for? What is the meaning? See, when you look at the Black Power fist, the fingers are always forward. So you can see all 5 fingers in what they call a clenched fist. And then the clenched fist is the breakdown of the history of where that ideology comes from. And whenever you can associate that fist to this Black Power movement of the 60s, and understand Stokely Carmichael's and the rest of the type of people who was in his organization, what ideology did they profess to believe? When you put all that together, it's no denying what the fists mean and what they meant. And, as you see, they got down for it, for what they believed in. That's why revolutions don't start. This is where I kicked my brother Killer Mike on Boyce Watkins' page. Boyce Watkins had posted this video that went viral with Killer Mike. Killer Mike did this integrationist socialist speech and tricked everybody, because that's how dialectic materialism worked. So I jump on there and I say something to the effect of, you can't really, you don't have to be prepared for a revolution. When you want to be a revolution, all you got to do is be ready to die. And if you're ready to die, it's time to get the revolution cracking, because nothing can stop a man who's committed to his idea, to the degree that he'll die for his idea. What do I need to be prepared for if I'm out here ready to die? But the object is, I don't want to die. I want them to die. And thus the revolution jumps off. Every revolution kicks off that way. And no revolution was ever prepared for the fight that they was going to have to fight. But yet, it's always a revolution, right? So let's get back to the flow of where we at, so I can give y'all a little bit more. Okay. So it says, in pragmatic America, the slogan catch the imagination, while the implicates, substance, are glossed over and ignored. The Black man thinks and acts like an American he is. Thus, the leader of the Black Revolution, who sees so repeatedly upon Black power, had never made the distinction between social revolution and social evolution or social reform. What up with it, the messenger Jaffa Black man? This ain't my brother's show over there where they get to go, arguing back and forth, wasting my time. I support everybody though, so if I see you on my page, I'm gonna click on your videos and run through them all. That's how I get down. I just be liking to know what y'all over there doing. And if you don't got no videos, then that's cool too. I just keep throwing mine up and y'all can follow along. Oh, with Peter, no, I wouldn't deal with Peter, because Peter can't handle Carl Albert, and that's the test. Can you bust Carl up? No, he ain't ready for me, bro. Trust me. I don't even really waste my time arguing with the Bible like that, because my paradigm is a preterist, and the paradigm is so cold that you're not going to get by one verse. I'm just going to throw one verse out there, and when you break that down properly, then I'll deal with you. But if you can't break it down, and it'll be something like I put in the room, Luke 21 and 20 through 24. If you can break that down and explain to me when that event occurred or did not occur, and make it sound logical, then you and I can have a Bible discussion. But if you can't handle that, you might as well just keep studying. I'm not interested in biblical debates, although I will have one, but that ain't my flow. My flow is getting to the money and building institutions if we can. You know what I mean? So here we go. We in this Black Power, and at this entire critique has tried to show there can be no such thing in America as a purely economic or political or civil rights revolution. There can be economic or political or civil rights reforms. But these are evolutionary social changes that are part and parcel of the very gradualism of the NAACP. Never mind the fact that Roy Wilkins and his class brothers are frightened by the Black Power that proves nothing. What a Wilkins is really saying is, please don't start throwing around power you don't really have, or power which you might have, but which you obviously don't know how to use. All you are doing is scaring people, like the brother Wilkins, right? And provoking others to mobilize white power for a showdown which you are not ready for. This is an NAACP minded man speaking about the ideas. This is the Wilkins, not the writer of the book. He's just breaking down what it is and what it's not. But he's speaking like, look, y'all talking that Black Power, you're wielding power around. And you know, when you start wielding your power, then the white folks flicker a finger and set up some white power to oppose you. And then the showdown must go down. And according to them, it won't be televised. And we're going to see how it ends, right? And we know how it ends. All those Black Panthers, some left the country, some died, others went into politics. Now they doing now they running around doing all types of things, but they damn sure are not yelling out and wielding power anymore, because they had their showdown and the show went down. So let's get back to this business, because this stuff right here is very strategic to me. And I see, when I listen to people, I just can't agree. I can't agree to these PhDs breakdown on this Black Power and, this Pan-African get down. You feel what I'm saying? So, I just don't, I got to get into it a little bit. So it says, so let me get down to my part, right? Okay, say, what these gentlemen want most avidly are the number of civil rights, legal, economic, social, and educational reforms in America. But the radical direct action civil writers plus the nationalists voraciously claim that this inadequate. They say the bourgeoisie, NAACP, Uncle Tom's can't reform this white man's society. Man, you got to go to resort to revolutionary tactics if you want to shake up these white folks. But what were these so-called revolutionary tactics? The Black Revolutionary included everything in the pot: sit-ins, freedom rides, demonstrations, and marches of all kinds, ghetto uprisings, stalling, voter registration, self-defense, boycotts, Black third-party attempts, etc. These were the elements of the revolution, particularly in the South. But today, when the main bulk of the direct actionists of the SNCC and others have quit the South, what have they left behind? Scattered groups devoted to voter registration and economic programs for self-help. The core has left the cooperative marketing program for farm produce in Louisiana. There were a new local election victories here and there, and the political reform movement of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party had closed its doors in Leflore County. This is not to say that the achievements of the direct actionists are not valuable based upon other things that can be constructed, but they are still reformist and gradualistically ideas with which are not a single NAACP peer nor King passive register could argue. The question arises, why was it necessary for all these idealistic and intrepid direct actionists to submit themselves to such a terrible physical and psychological battering in the South to establish a few struggling groups for a local reform in politics and economics, attempting in vain to breach the Jim Crow barriers, which are in effect separate movements, outset the divergent natures of the reform and revolutionary movements of the social change. They confuse the method without understanding them, thus imputing revolutionary interpretations to merely reformist methods. Hence, when direct action methods failed against the hardening barriers, they had to fall back on what few political and economic reform gains they had won. From this point on, the direct actionists advanced to the slogan of Black Power as if to conceive themselves that they were taking a revolutionary step forward, to wit, instead of a radical integrationism, the theme became economic and political control by Blacks in the Black ghettos and the geographical areas of Black majorities in the South. But is this a step forward or backwards? Or perhaps a one step backwards, two step forward sort of gambit? Whatever it is essentially another variation of an old communist left-wing doctrine, an old communist left-wing doctrine of self-determination in the Black Belt areas of the Negro majority, but with certain innovations. The old Communist Party doctrine did not include the northern ghettos in the scheme of the Black Power exponents do. Moreover, the communists did not envision any separatist Black Party movement as a part of self-determination, nor include any separatist economic reforms for self-help, such as cooperative consumers and producers movement. For the communists then and forevermore, trade unionism was a prominent importance. The Northern Corps found itself in the 1960s, for instance, still forced to battle for integration in certain unions, such as the building and construction trades. But when the subterranean nationalists inside the organization came to the fore of 1966, it answered Carmichael's Black Power call. They demanded that Negroes reject integration as their major aim. Negroes were called on to band themselves into radically orientated mass movements using political power and economic boycotts to win a complete economic and political control of northern ghettos and southern countries in which they are in the majority, except for time, place, circumstance, plus a few innovations, ideological twists. There is very little that is new in all of this. Man. The essence of Black Power represents nothing more than a strategic retreat for the purpose. Its purpose is to change, not the white world outside, but the Black world inside, by reforming it something else politically and economically, in its own way, for other purpose. The Nation of Islam has already achieved this in a limited way, sustaining religion for politics. So in 1967, when this book dropped, what they fighting for, the Nation of Islam had already created. They could have just went and joined them if that's what you're fighting for. Been rocking over there with, Malcolm X, Farrakhan, and all the rest. But instead, we're fighting through this Black Power revolutionary movement going on through these 60s. That's going to get its head very shortly. They started in 66, yelling out the slogan, and we're going to see how fast all that history began and ended. And when it ended, we know the story. You will see the movie coming out. There's a few movies already out, right? So, it says, Malcolm X quitted the Nation of Islam because this type of Black power lacked a dynamic. Because this type of Black power lacked a dynamic, was static and aloof to the broad struggle. He proposed to create another movement, the Organization of the African American Unity, the OAAU, and link up with all of these direct actionists and even passive resistors. Y'all make sure you write down the word actionists and passive resistors for your research and understanding, right? Believing that one must be involved in all reforms of struggle, rather they are on all fronts. But after Malcolm X's passing, the most dynamic of all direct actionists gave up their dynamism and took a position almost in the lap of the Nation of Islam. They merely substitute politics for peripheral religion to go along with economics, but they added a more secular religion of Black power invented by the Baptist minister politicians. As the fate would have it, all of these took place at a time when Powell, that's Clayton Powell, in whom more Black political powers was invested than in anyone else at the moment, was under fire from the congressional white backlash in Washington, D.C. On the face of it, Black power adds up to some profound question. Does this strategic retreat from integrationism mean that the civil rights are settling for a gradual evolutionary reform within the Black communities? Can these economic and political reforms be achieved without effect on or interaction with the white world? Will the achievement of certain level of Black power enable or expound on the deal more effectively with the white world than the dynamics of the direct action integrationism? What manner of socialism dynamic is it to be added to Black power to make up for the dynamic? I'm skipping lines, man. Let me start over. What manner of socialist dynamic is to be added to Black power to make up for the dynamics of the discarded along with direct action? The real answer at this stage is that Black power slogan had no other dynamic than what is applied in its emotional necessity, taken by themselves, all purely economic and political reorganizations of any type in America can be the only reformist movement, rather in Black ghettos or white world, in order to be revolutionary in method to affect social change, such as transforming ghettos. Other dynamic elements must be added to the economic and political combination. The Black power exponent has not understood these elements, yet they are unique inner dialectic at work in all this that must be examined. For the purpose of Black power, exponents themselves have laid out their thinking for all to see. We can discount the phonetic avowals of Black consciousness that made New York Times headlines and television panels, that frightened the bourgeoisie Toms, and bourgeoisie Uncle Tom, white right resistors, and lost friends. It was a new way of signing the same nationalist theme heard before from other quarters. But the core Black Power exponent came out in midwinter with the new publication of the Rights and Review, winter of 1966 through 67. Y'all got that? It's a publication called Rights and Reviews. Check that out. Came out in the winter of 1966, lasted about a year, but titled The Black Power Issues, in which the substance of the slogan was discussed at some length. Here it is revealed that behind the brave verbalization of Black Power lay a muddled intellectual world of vague ideas and conceptual confusion. Oh man, this is the hit rock of the idea of Black Power. 16 articles by interracial lineups of nationalists, Black Power integrationists, white left-wingers, Jews, Africans, and others spelled out the implicit Black Power retreat to the more leveled progression of an evolutionary Black reformation. One cannot argue against this tactic since it is premature to state categorically where it will lead. But one should not, in this instance, refrain from calling reformism what it is. After all, the social realist must be aware that the New Deal heritage of the 1930s still hang heavy over the land. And the American social dynamic has the built-in persuasion to bend all so-called revolutionary inclinations into reformist groove. This is what anti-poverty is all about. It is why the anti-poverty program is able to buy off the ghetto rebels with consummate ease. At the recent anti-poverty meetings in Harlem, where an independent citizen committee was challenging the efficiency of properties of the HARU Act. Oh, man, it's going in. Man, it's going in. A dominant role in the anti-poverty policies, certain core leaders were present and silent. It remains to be seen just how Black Power will handle anti-poverty issues within core. But it is manding issues of rights and reviews on Black Power. Roy Ennens opens up with Black Power phase, psychological warfare, in which he said, there is an impelling need to emphasize the psychosociological aspect of Black Power. We can cry Black Power until doomsday, but until Black children stop saying we're blacker than me and so is your mama, until grown Black men stop using Black as a curse word, until Ebony stops asking the insane question as, are Negro women getting prettier, and stop crying bleaching cream advertisements, until Black people stop saying such things as, she's dark but pretty, in short, until Black people accept values meaningful to themselves, there can be no complete effective organizing for the development of Black Power. Yeah, this topic right here is a little tough. I know it's late in the night. Everybody ain't gonna stay up all night, but this Black Power idea is a hard thing for people to really grasp. So we ain't gonna drive the point all night. I just wanted to read a little portion of it. If anybody got a question or whatever, there's a few people in the group, you can type it in. I deal with it real quick, and we'll make something happen. But yeah, I would definitely like y'all to go study the clenched fist, what that means in the history of the clenched fist, and then understand that this is all relevant to the movements that we see today. And I would like to put this on record. I may do a whole video about it, but that Black Lives Power movement, you got two things happening. You got the slogan, Black Lives Matter. Then you got a movement that mimicked the slogan called Black Lives Matter movement. those two are not the same. In the aspect of Black Lives Matter, of course, Black Lives Matter. Most importantly, because Black lives have been subjugated to the most crimes committed by the government and the citizens of America that are not of the Black people, right? So therefore, they need special care and special handling on how you deal with the group as a whole. And thus, Black lives are most important because they are the most scrutinized and attacked since America has been formulated and before. Now, in the aspect of the movement itself, well, guess what? The party is over. It's time to vote. As soon as the vote is over, the funding from the political parties that gave them the money to get buses and signs and the ability to move and organize, that funding is about to get stripped if it's not already being stripped. And thus, when you remove the money, you take the fight out the dog, and the Black Lives Matter movement turns into the 99 percenters, and we don't hear from them no more. So I can pretty much say that the president comes into office somewhere around January 20th. All of that political activism and marching and all that crap, that shit's gonna be over with. So they're gonna put out the call to the police to bring out the dogs in the billy clubs, and they won't just be standing by acting civil. So we should see somewhere in the first 3 months of the year, we should see one more city act up, act the fool. We should see the police come out there, but we're gonna see that the tactics are much, much different. And they're gonna put the smash down real fast on one of these marches that we have in the streets. And it's gonna be blasted and held into negative perspective for the Black Lives Matter movement people. And they're gonna start to slander people, throw a few of them in jail and all that type of thing. And then slowly those that are participating in the Black Lives Matter, they're gonna do the Underground Railroad thing, and it's over. And by this time next year, it'll be just a t-shirt. All you'll see is a t-shirt and one or two people yelling Black Lives Matter, and that's that. The leaders of it won't have no more time on the news and various organizations, and funding will be pooled. And boy, they know how to do their business. They know how to handle that business in a political way to shut down what they want to do. That's why the type of Pan-Africanism that I promote is a Booker T. Washington format, because Booker T. Washington didn't waste his time formulating marches. He took his and built a college and then began to just educate on a practical way so that everybody in his neighborhood were masters of skills that they could all unite. And then in the future, we would get those Black Wall Streets dotted all over America. You can't get a Black Wall Street anywhere in this country if the people that formulated the Black Wall Street don't got a Booker T. Washington STEM education. They might not have went to Tuskegee to get it, but you damn sure got that type of education if you plan on building a Black Wall Street now or then. And thus, I understand this shit in such a way that's much different. So, you know, this is for Sarnetta, if you listen to Sarnetta. You put on a guy who claims that he's a PhD and he done went to Harvard and Yale to battle those white folks about his position from his so-called master teachers. And then when you look up who he's talking about this same ass group that all the comedics is talking about. It's nothing wrong, but they not that raw. If you take the 5 of them that they pretty much point to, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Sheikh Anthony Diop, you could throw in Leonard Jeffries and Smalls, put them all together and you get in the same conversation, and none of them got a breakdown on a STEM program better than Booker T. And you could take all of them together and none of them have an institution built of any sort. And thus, their type of education, it makes you wise and learn how to read and get your PhDs and get you speaking eloquently at Yale University. But when you walk up out of Yale University, after you gave the best speech in the world, you won't be going to go build no institutions. because you don't have the education to build an institution. You got to educate. You got an education to write a book and give an eloquent speech, and that's where your education ends. I don't care how much you know about ancient Egypt. You can know everything about ancient Egypt, and you're still not going to lay down no institution. As the institute builders in America, in Black America, they didn't have to focus on ancient Egypt to build Black Wall Street. Yes, the science ultimately came from back then, but that ain't where they had to look. Common sense told them that if you don't understand science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, you can't build a brick wall. You can't build a house. You can't establish a business and do the taxes on it. You just don't understand what you're doing. So, thus, the information I'm sharing tonight is hit rock information in dealing with the perspectives of how we went through various changes in a Black power aspect. And because of that, we fall short. We fall into these paradigms that all we want to do is get to talking and marching and having debates. And, you know, sometimes a debate is necessary because there's a particular perspective that's so misconstrued that we need two people to get up and debate it so we can clear the air about the subject. But they don't debate for that reason anymore, because Sonetta is comedic and he's got the hot channel for debating. And the way that he wants to debate, he just wants to debate for profit, that the people debating could sell more tickets. It's not to come out to debate with a conclusion to move the progress forward. Thus, we got to go through a whole month of back and forth videos arguing and shit to try to see who really can up one on the other. And after it's all done and it's all over with, after we heard 30 hours of talking, don't nobody in the goddamn room know how to build an institution with this information. Unless you want to build an institution of a non-economic liberal. That's what Dr. Ben, that's what he gave you. That's what Clark gave you. That's what Sheikh Anta Diop gave you. That's what Shaka Utmost gave you. That's what Polite gave you. That's what Tara Sutton Seti gave you. That's what gave you. That's what all of them going to give you, because they just regurgitating the same paradigm that's already been played out. I got the nickname for it, non-economic liberalism. At the end of the day, all you're talking is humanitarianism. You're not talking about STEM. You're not talking about institution buildings of manufacturing and economic empire control. See, we can look at the real rich Black of modern day, all these rappers, right? And if we just take away what they saying in the rap game and listen to what in the hell they really doing behind the scenes, and what are they doing with that money, they're not building institutions. They buying products that get them richer while never producing the product that's making them a fortune. So you could take somebody like my man Puffy. Smooth. Puffy is smooth with the get down. He got a clear head. He know how to get this money, y'all. He's a hype man, all of that. We're not talking about his musical game. Let's look at what he does, right? He set up Sean John. Great advertiser. Made that company do numbers. But he don't own that company. Nor does he produce that product, right? It's a fashion. It's a fad. So it's going to last for a minute, make him $1 billion, and boom, on to the next product. So if what we're building is to get to $1 million, so you could just simply invest in the others' corporations so that your personal wealth grows to $1 billion. And even when you reach $1 billion and you got beat by Dre, you got to sell it. You got to give it away because you can't control it. Well, go back and study Ida B. Wells. You know what I'm saying? Go find out what happened to the company. How much bread did she make? What did she build with the money that she got? Go find out. Go look at the people coming out of that Tuskegee model. Just go find out who graduated from Tuskegee in 1885, 1887, catch it about right there, get their names, and find out what they went and done. Because see, in 1901, Booker T gives a speech to Harvard and Yale. And he tells them that out of his college, he produced more millionaires than Harvard and Yale combined when it comes to graduates and what they do in society. Now, mind you, he graduating all kind of black folks, and Yale is graduating all kind of white folks in 1901. But when you add it up, when you put the economics to economics, well, Yale University and Howard, they're non-economic liberalism. They're not over there building institutions like that. They're getting high-paying jobs. Now, he wasn't talking to MIT because, you know, them white boys over there, boy, that's where the business is at. That's where the business is at, ITT. That's how you build a missile defense system. You got to go to ITT. Them dudes over there at Harvard, they can't tell you shit about building a missile defense system. They don't know what they're doing. And you can trust and believe that the Pentagon damn sure ain't smarter than MIT. Because before you can go to the Pentagon and get you a job, you're going to need to graduate from MIT. So everybody over here at MIT, well, they got the beginning of the game. They get to know about shit before anybody get to know about it. So if they come up with something that's strictly amazing, well, you know, all them bosses at the Pentagon, they show up through the back door and say, give it to us. Let us see what the hell you over here doing. Now, if they smart and they want to get away, they hide that shit in the computer, throw it out the back door and show them the front card and be like, hey, that's all we got right now. Come back tomorrow. And before they can get back, they done buried that information. And guess who is in control? Yeah, everybody out in Silicon Valley. Everybody out in the institutions where they build technology. Now, that's where the business is at. This is where black people is supposed to be mastering at least 80% of the population. We're supposed to be mastering technology and engineering. And when I say science, I'm not just talking about that old damn science that they teach over there with the Kemetic, that Metu Neter in Egypt. That shit weak. That shit cannot compete to when you know science and engineering of how to grow cotton, how to grow shit in America, in the South, where you live, how to take the dirt and make that shit produce the best fruit you ever ate. Who give a shit what Kemet was doing 3,000 years ago? I don't give a shit. I'm over here trying to fight poverty for the future. These niggas is worried about who was black. What was true? Was the Bible true? Was the Bible not true? These niggas is lost. They lost in some foolery. Like Unc said, they just lost in tomfoolery. Because they're going to sit here on December something debating some bullshit topics. Nothing wrong with it. That's how they want to get to the money. That's all the shit they know. They damn sure don't want to debate Pit Boss and his technological degrees he got sitting over here. And my psychological degree, boy, that shit go back 30 years. Because see, if I start dropping that psychological game on them, making my chess moves, I just come off the head and say, man, do you understand that I'm thinking what you thinking, what I'm thinking, while you think what I think you're thinking? And throw that shit up off the top of my head like it's nothing while I make my moves, while I sit on the backside and control the whole conscious community with a cell phone and a text message. It ain't that hard. Y'all dealing with the champion of this shit over here. See, they tried to play me. Put one of their weak squads on me because, you know, I'm only appear on channels with low numbers of views. So they think that your intellectual properties is based on how many views you get. And if you get 1.5 million views, that you know some shit. But you know, Comedy sells. Foolery sells. Nigga shit sells. Black cracker thought shit sells. But the real just don't get out that far. That's why the real is few. Only few gonna keep it 100. Everybody else is playing for the jackpot. You understand? So I got a couple of logos. I might throw my other logo up where I entitled it, Bet It All. Digital Pit Boss. I play the game for bread and meat. If I don't win, then I don't eat. And I'm fat like a fat rat over here. But I've been doing this too long, too many years, y'all. I came out the box. Out the box. I'm about to run y'all a series. Since everybody want to take the conscious community and go to the hip hop, they can't go to hip hop better than me. I came from hip hop over to that bullshit. Just trying to duck them for a minute because I had already been chilling. So, now I'm going to go ahead and play them ace cards in the hole. First, I'm going to start off by introducing y'all to some West Coast shit. Since I'm from the West Coast, I'm going to bring somebody on that had a gold record before NWA dropped their first shit in the game. And we're going to get to some shit way back when Ice-T was talking about colors. Colors. I am a nightmare walking, psychopath talking, king of my set, just a gangster stalking, living life like a firecracker, quick as a fuse. Niggas would die over the colors they choose. Colors. Back then, 1984. Y'all don't know nothing about it, but at that time, partner, I was in the rap game pumping. So I'm going to bring my big homies out. They ain't famous like you gonna know who they are. They go back too far, but we gonna show you the evidence. We gonna show you the names of the songs, you know what I'm saying, how we get down. Big ups to Lemon Lime and the West Coast crew. I'm gonna hit these niggas with it. And then from there, after he give y'all the breakdown, so y'all know how I officiated myself into this music business and way back in the 80s, I'ma then walk y'all niggas through everybody and watch how I bring them through. On a channel that don't get but 200 views, I'm going to bring the biggest names out the game. Because they ain't worried about how many views I got. They can give a shit about that because that shit don't mean nothing. The only thing that means something is whatever you said, does it hold weight? If it don't hold no weight, who cares? It ain't real. And with that, Digital Pit Boss, baby, I'm out.